I want to start with a story that is really interesting to me. And if you've been following along the campaign for a while, this is a thing that I've been talking about for a while. So, 2 weeks ago, the Baltimore Sun ran a story about the public subsidies that Maryland's pro sports teams get. The headline: Orioles and Ravens spur nine-figure spending in Maryland. But is it enough? And, this is a question that I've been asking for over 2 years. In August of 2023, I wrote an op-ed calling for public ownership of the Orioles. Since then, I've written more, done national interviews, added it to our platform, and made the same argument everywhere I go. When it comes to pro sports teams, we're trapped in a false binary. Give the billionaire owner everything they want, or the team threatens to leave. In 2023, when the fear was that the Orioles might leave for Nashville, I started calling this game Nashville Chicken. I want to tell you though, that there's a third option: public ownership. And tonight, I want to show you not only why it's possible, but why it's necessary. So let me explain how the trap works. The Maryland Stadium Authority is the state agency that subsidizes sports owners. You can see their website up there. Pro stadiums in the big leagues, Camden Yards and M&T Bank Stadium, plus minor league stadiums across the state, and horse racing facilities like Pimlico and the Shamrock facility in Carroll County that we discussed a few weeks ago. All of those are publicly owned. All of them are operated for private benefits. And when Wes Moore became governor, he removed the longtime stadium professionals at the head of this organization, and he put in an ally from big law to be in charge of this operation. The business model is public investment, private profit, and Wes Moore has put one of his best men on the job. Now, the way it works is baseball owners or football owners can just threaten to leave. Politicians are terrified of being the guy or the woman who loses a team, so they cave every single time. What does that mean? It means that since 1998, Maryland has committed over $1.3 billion in public benefits to the Orioles, including $600 million authorized in 2022. The Ravens got another $600 million that year for a total of $1.2 billion in 2022, both of them going to teams owned by billionaires. When David Rubenstein bought the Orioles in 2024, he purchased an incredibly profitable business with $600 million in taxpayer-funded upgrades, plus 99-year development rights around the stadium and rent of less than $1 million a year on the prime piece of property in that part of the area. I wrote about it in 2023. It doesn't make sense that one private owner can extort limitless concessions from a city or the state. The word I use there is extortion, and that's the right word today. Back in December of 2023, when the Stadium Authority approved the deal, I said publicly, the next time we have to have one of these negotiations, it's going to be way worse, because the question is, who has the leverage in these deals? In 15 to 30 years, Camden Yards will be 50 years old, and the next negotiation we have with a billionaire like Rubenstein or whoever he has take over after him won't be about renovations. It will be about whether taxpayers are subsidizing a whole new stadium. We're talking billions next time, not hundreds of millions. That's where the trap leads, unless we change who has the leverage. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is that the economics of why this is supposed to work are a lie. Here's why the economic justifications for this model are false. First, the University of Chicago surveyed the nation's leading economists. They asked, are stadium subsidies worth the cost? 83% of those economists said no. Kennesaw State did a review of 130 peer-reviewed studies over 50 years and found no statistically significant positive correlation between sports facility construction and economic development. None. In 130 studies over 5 decades. The St. Louis Federal Reserve explains why. It's called the substitution effect. Money spent at stadiums isn't new economic activity. It's money that would have been spent somewhere else. Movies, restaurants, concerts. Your entertainment budget doesn't grow because there's a new club section at Camden Yards. It just moves around and it just shifts around the state. Between 1970 and 2020, governments across the U.S. spent $33 billion on stadiums, and the median public share of that was 73% coming from taxpayer dollars. The North American Association of Sports Economists declared in 2022 that there's no point in studying this anymore because the debate is over. Yet, in 2022, Maryland committed another $1.2 billion. Look, I'm glad the Orioles are staying in Baltimore. I love baseball. I'm an Orioles season ticket holder. I love the Orioles, but I hate these deals. So The question is who benefits. Let's look at Moore's Orioles deal. 600 million in bonds, 99-year development rights, and essentially no rent. 94 million over 99 years for a ownership company that has Bloomberg and Rubenstein in it. That's less than $1 million a year from some of the richest men in the country. Tom Kelso, the former Stadium Authority chair that Moore replaced with his big law buddy, said hundreds of millions of dollars that belong to the citizens of Maryland will be given to the Orioles to spend as they see fit. Who did Moore put in charge when he fired Kelso? Craig Thompson, his campaign manager and a partner at Venable, the law firm whose employees donate more to Governor Moore than any other Maryland business. 2 months after the deal was signed, David Rubenstein, a private equity billionaire who Moore has been caught hanging out with, bought the team, immediately gained a $600 million taxpayer-funded upgrade, plus 99-year development rights in the heart of Baltimore City. Look, I hope Rubenstein's historical interest in other rich people's philanthropy convinces him to use his power and wealth to save baseball from private equity, tech billionaires, and sovereign wealth funds like he is and is encouraging. I told CBS Sports this. I said, what if his legacy, like the Carnegies before him, is to who left us libraries and universities, is that he helps us figure out how the city and state can own the Orioles forever. I don't have a lot of faith that he will do it, but I'm not particularly anti-Rubenstein. As private equity billionaires go, he's not particularly bad. I am against a system, however, that lets any private owner extract billions and billions of dollars from the taxpayer. Now, here's why reform won't work. The mechanism that the owners use is the relocation threat. Private owners can leave. The Major League Baseball and the NFL have ensured that. They have used their congressional leverage and their leverage with the courts in order to make sure that those teams can't leave. Politicians know it's wrong. They know that this extortion game, this Nashville chicken game is wrong. But no elected official feels like they can survive being blamed for losing the hometown sports team that everybody grew up with. So subsidies for billionaire sports team owners become a bipartisan pursuit, time in and time out. You can't fix this by electing better politicians. The incentive structure dictates the outcomes, not the people in charge. That's why I push for a third option. When I first wrote an op-ed, I said too often it's framed as either give the billionaire owner everything they want or the team leaves. I wanted to introduce a third option so that we're not constantly stuck in that cycle. And so what is the third option? The third option is public ownership. What does it look like? It's not a fantasy, it's reality. The Green Bay Packers prove it works at the major league level. Publicly owned since 1923, 538,000 shareholders, never threatened to relocate, doing great. Around the world, public or fan ownership is a regular feature in different sports. But here's a story that's even more relevant to Maryland. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, right up the road. In 1995, private owners bought the Harrisburg Senators, a double-A team, and they spent $4.1 million. Immediately, they threatened to move to Massachusetts unless Harrisburg taxpayers financed a new stadium for them. Same playbook we see everywhere. Mayor Stephen Reed of Harrisburg at the time called their bluff. He said, if we want to keep this baseball in Harrisburg, we're just going to have to buy the team. So they did. The city bought the Senators for $6.7 million. They ran the team as a municipal enterprise like water or electricity. The results, the team generated $250,000 to $500,000 in annual profits. They won a lot. They set records in the Eastern League while under public ownership. And when the city eventually sold the team, they got $13.25 million, nearly double what they paid, plus a binding 29-year commitment to keep the team in Harrisburg. Now, let's be real. The price tag of the Orioles is too high. Rubenstein isn't selling, and Major League Baseball has used their congressionally provided antitrust exemption to stop any efforts at public ownership. But Harrisburg shows us the real third option and the real practical solution, and it starts at the minor league level. Don't pay the ransom, don't lose the team, buy the team from the city or the state, run it profitably, and if you do have to sell, capture the profits. Now, in Maryland, beyond the Orioles, we have 6 other professional baseball teams, and the relocation game happens here at that level too. Aberdeen is getting millions of dollars in state funds for Ripken Stadium while losing its Orioles affiliation. Frederick is getting $39 million. Both teams and the Chesapeake Bay Sox and the Spire City Ghost Towns are owned by a Virginia company, Attain Sports. attain decides which city in our state gets the real team under private ownership in stadiums that we own. In my first op-ed in 2023, I said we should consider public ownership, including the minor league teams that play in publicly financed cities. Harrisburg proves that it works. And here's the thing that most Marylanders don't know. In 1984, the General Assembly gave Baltimore eminent domain authority over professional sports teams in Baltimore City. They did it to try to stop the Colts from leaving, and that proved that the authority can exist in other counties as well. We should make sure our counties and our state have that authority with teams that play in stadiums we pay for. Even if we never use that authority, that credible threat gives us negotiating power. It changes the leverage. This is why Major League Baseball fights against it, because they know it works. So we say this: start with the minor leagues, prove out the model, build the infrastructure and the public support for public ownership. Then when the next major league negotiation comes with a billionaire and his family, and it will, because that's how it works, we will have the experience, the leverage, and the alternative baked into our laws in Maryland. So I want to go over some key facts and numbers here. There are 7 professional baseball teams in Maryland. It is the Orioles and 6 minor league teams. All of them play in publicly financed stadiums. 83% of economists thinks that it is a bad idea to use public stadiums or to use public subsidies on stadiums. $1.3 billion have gone to the Orioles since 1988. That's a lot of money, and a lot of economists who don't think this can work. Now, what do we do about it? The 2026 legislative session starts in January, and I'm calling for what I called for 2 years ago. Bring public ownership to the General Assembly. I don't care if we get it all done this year, but commission a study, start the conversation, do whatever we need to in order to make sure this is an option for our counties, so that whatever team they have there in a publicly financed city doesn't pick up and leave like Aberdeen did, and like Frederick has done in the past. It's in our platform, and it should be part of the agenda of every politician in the state. The Baltimore Sun asked, is it enough? My answer is it will never be enough as long as private owners can extort us. There's a third option, and I've been talking about it for a long time: public ownership and community controls. It's not subsidize or lose the team. It's buy the team and run it as a public utility. Let's choose that option and make Maryland the state that saves baseball from itself.